In the last video, we managed to move our sprite around. Now remember, we have told it where to start each time by the go-to and which direction to point it in. We created this repeat loop that will just go on forever until something happens here, and that's what we're going to look at in this video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a further two sprites quickly. The first one, I'm just going to use one of the existing sprites. So I'm just going to go choose sprite, and I'm just going to search for the rocks. There we go, click on the rocks. I'm going to bring some rocks in. So that's my thing I don't want to hit. I'm also going to create a new sprite as well. So I'm just going to go into the paint option here. And I just want a colored square. Now I'm going to fill it with a color. It doesn't really matter what, but I'm going to go with green, and I'm going to make sure the outline is turned off. This is important because we're going to use the when this sprite touches a color option, and if it's got a black outline on, it won't actually be able to touch the green. That's too big at the moment. I could control the size here, but I'm just going to bring the size down over here, and I just want something about, yeah, let's make it like a square. There we go. And that's going to be my base. I'm going to, for now, pop it up in the top left-hand corner. We're going to add some randomness later. Now, just for good practice, I'm going to call this my base. So I just rename the sprite up here. Just click somewhere else, and that'll be saved. I'm going to go onto my sprite 1, and I'm just going to call this Rover. That's just going to help me with my coding in a minute. Okay, so now I've got 1, 2, 3 sprites. Now, remember, each sprite can have its own code. So I'm going to go into the code block. Oh no, all my code's gone, and it's not there either. Remember, it's all under this sprite here. So, when do I want the game to end? I want the game to end when I either hit the rock or I reach my base over here. So as there are two possible outcomes here, I'm going to go down to what I call an operator under the green operators. And it's going to be an OR statement. So one or the other arguments are going to happen, and then this repeat loop will stop, and whatever code down here I put in a minute, that will start to happen. So the two things that could stop the game are going to be under sensing, and it's going to be touching, and I'm going to change that. Just notice I lost my OR statement there, so I'll just bring that over here. So you're going to be touching the rocks. I'm just going to bring that back in. So OR, and just a reminder, when you're sort of linking these together, it's the sort of left-hand side of the block that links. So it's not the sort of center. If I do it like that, you can see it's going to replace the block. You see the whole thing's highlighted in white. So when you release it, just have the left-hand side touching the bit you want to drop it into. So that's one reason the game might not stop, but go on to the next element of the code. It might be touching the rocks, and I'm also going to use the touching color option. Now, just to be safe here, if we click on the color, and we've got this color picker just here, so I'm going to click that, and I'm just going to color match. So that's an exact match for the color. So I'll just go over that again. I clicked on the color picker, and I could match that to any color in the game. And I'm just going to go with the green. And you can see my OR statement from before was just floating there. It won't do much, but I am just going to get rid of it so it doesn't confuse things. Okay, so that's two reasons that the code will stop running. It will hit one of those two things, and now I want something to happen when one of those two things happens. So it's back to control and some if statements again. So if the first one happens, if it's touching color, so sensing. So I'm going to go for here. I'm going to use the color picker. I'm going to click here, and I just at the moment want a simple message, so I know that it's done that. So I'm just going to say you have reached your base. Excellent, and then I'm just going to come down to control again, and another if statement, and if it's this argument, so that's one thing, so that's winning the game, this is losing the game, or you're touching the rocks, so again, sensing, touching, change that to rocks, and back up to looks to get a statement, so I know that what I wanted to happen has happened, and bad luck, you crashed. Can't spell crashed. Now, with any code you create, whether you're scripting or doing this block coding, it's important to test things as you go along and test every outcome to make sure your code's working. If you create too much code, it's very hard to tie down what bits aren't working. So test each stage as you go. So I just want to start this. And off I go. Wasn't moving for a start there. And you've reached your base. Excellent. That side's working. But let's make sure that it also realizes when I've lost the game. Bad luck, you crashed. I've just lost some of my screen off the side here. So we can now control the way the sprite moves around the screen, and now we've got an end to the game. And remember, these two if blocks here have to be outside this repeat until loop. The whole point is that this repeat until loop, we told it now, the argument, that it would repeat until you're either touching that color, i.e. you've reached the base, or you're touching the rocks, at which point you'll go, bad luck, you crashed. And then the two statements follow the code. Make sure you haven't dropped them in there like that.